Hey guys, Andrew here with Defiant Tactical Accessories, and today I want to do a brief review of one of my favorite handguns. I'm almost embarrassed to say that, but it just is what it is. I'm sitting out here getting ready to hop in my pool and thought I'd throw something together for you real quick. So let's take a look. Flip the camera around, we'll take a look and see what it is. This is a Bersa Thunder 380 cc model. Now, you may know that there is a Bersa Thunder, may have heard of the Bersa Thunder. The Bersa Thunder is slightly larger than this. Bersa is an Argentinian firearm manufacturer, and the design is loosely based off of, I believe, sort of a Walther type design. It's got a fixed barrel. It doesn't have like a reciprocating or tilting barrel like you find in a lot of modern semi-autos. So let's talk about some of the features on this pistol, and then I'll kind of go back over what I absolutely love about it. It is double action, single action. I've already cleared this, okay? So I'll just kind of show so you can see it's got a double action trigger pull. All right, and then after the first round, it goes to single action. All right. It has a trigger bar here that's exposed, as you saw. If I'm not mistaken, the Beretta 92 has one as well. That's not one of my favorite things. I always worry that that could be impinged by something, but it's not the case. You can see right here there's a takedown lever. I might take it down here for you and you can take a look at it. As far as trigger pull goes, it's a fairly hefty trigger. I don't have one of those tools to measure the weight, but it's fairly hefty. The single action trigger is divine. I mean, it's extremely short. There's a little bit of creep you can see right there, but it's extremely short, fairly crisp. So I really like the trigger. There's also I don't know what to call it, but you can see as I start pulling in the double action mode, you'll see as the hammer pulls back, you'll hear a click. Okay, it's almost like a half cock position. Typically when I carry this, I carry it hammer down and I will pull it back to a half cock position. So it has a sort of a half cock, right? So if you pull the double action back just a little bit, it sort of goes to a half cock. The safety is also a decocker. So if I go ahead and cock it all the way and I engage the safety, okay, it lowers the hammer. All right. The safety operates by means of a bar that comes in back here. You'll see it start pivoting. You see that? Okay, and then it blocks the hammer, preventing it from hitting that firing pin. Okay. So let's see some other features. Little serrations on the slide. The grip panels are very slim. If you take a look at that, they're very slim. I've thought about, they do make like wood panels you can put on there instead, and that would look really classy. You can go online and Google it and see some really nice looking pictures. I haven't done that because really with this pistol, what I need it to be is as slim as possible, and I'll talk about that in a minute because of my use case and how and when I carry this. It's got a very small beaver tail. When I grip it, my hands are large enough that it really, grabs all of this. My pinky typically, you'll see my pinky doesn't have anywhere to go with a flush fitting magazine. It holds 7 rounds plus 1 in the chamber, so it gives you 8 rounds, which for this size firearm is kind of typical. It's not really anything exciting. There is some serration here in front of the trigger guard. I suppose there may be some people that when they grip it, they like to put their finger around there. I don't do that. I've seen some people, I don't even know if he still makes videos anymore, Nothing Fancy. I used to watch a lot of his. I believe I've seen him do that. Some people do, some people don't. I'm not going to knock it. It has a loaded chamber indicator right over here. No, I'm sorry. Right over here. Flip it around. Loaded chamber indicator. This pops out if I push this down, you can see there's a little red there. It pops out, and so it's both visual and tactile. Okay, in the dark, you can touch that to see if it's loaded. Magazine release, nothing really to say about that. That's the thumb safety. It has a couple of other safety features that are worth bringing up. Number one, it has a lock here that can be locked with a key. I already talked about the thumb safety. And then, it has a magazine disconnect, which, as you may have noticed, I disabled because I don't like that. None of my other firearms have it. I want to be able to fire the weapon if there's no magazine in. I don't want to be unable to do that. This is what the magazine looks like. That is the 7-round magazine. It's fairly small. I have some 380 loaded in here, hollow point obviously. But they make larger mags, and I think these are just Bersa Thunder magazines, but they fit. So full-size Bersa Thunder magazines. These are 10-round mags, and this is what I use for my spare reloads. This magazine pouch I made probably a decade ago. I don't know, maybe not quite that long, but it was a very long time ago. And I made it because I needed to be able to carry these, and I didn't want to get pocket lint in them, and I needed to have it be a slim pouch that I could just put in my pocket, and that's exactly what this is. So this is made to fit in my front pocket. That lets me carry 20 rounds here plus 7 rounds there, so that's 27 plus 1 round of 380 in the chamber. Gives me 28 rounds on my person. So I think that is enough to solve most problems I should run into here in the US. Sight-wise on the gun, the sights are minimal. This is not quite a bad breath distance weapon, but the sights are small enough and minimal enough that I'm not going to be shooting, most likely, something at 50 or 100 yards or something with it, which is okay with me because that's not its purpose either. They're sufficient for what it's made for. So let's talk about some of the things that I really love with this thing. So I like the trigger. I already kind of talked about that. I like the overall design and shape. Like the aesthetics of this gun, just the way that it looks, the way that it feels, the way that it carries is just, it's right. It feels good. It looks good. I honestly think it's a classy looking gun. It kind of gives me James Bond vibes a little bit, right? Like that's kind of the vibe that it gives me. I have a Galco shoulder holster. I believe it is a PPKS shoulder holster that it fits in, and that is oftentimes how I'll carry it around the house. I don't often carry out of the house in a shoulder holster, but interestingly, I also have a Glock 19 leather holster, which is what I typically carry my Glock 19 in, and this fits in it. It is a little bit, it's not as tight as my Glock would be, obviously, because it's not as thick, but it fits. It fits well enough for me to carry in that. What else? So the one thing that could have been done a little differently is some of the lines on this are a little sharp. Like personally, I think for the carry form factor, I would have rather this be rounded. I don't really care for this thing protruding there. The side edge here, you can see where it's worn. That's because it's kind of sharp on that edge. Same thing down here, could have been rounded a little bit. Those things I think could have been done a little bit differently. But overall, it's small enough and compact enough, and just generally tiny enough that it's perfect for when you need to have something very discreet to carry. So let's talk about the use case there for a minute. If I have a choice, I'm typically going to want to carry something that carries some better ammunition than 380 and has higher capacity than this and a more modern sighting system than this. And that's my Glock 19. All right. I want my RMR. I want my red dot. I want my capacity. I want my federal HST, which is what I carry. I want that if I can. But not everywhere I go, that's not always an appropriate thing to carry. If I'm dressing up, if I am going somewhere where being discreet is extremely important, if I'm going somewhere where I don't really want to or have the space to just to have a larger weapon like that, this fits the bill. This is also a lot less expensive than all of that. I think this came in at like $200 to $300, maybe a little over $300. And so, you know, I'll carry this sometimes, just given that. For example, if I'm traveling, if I'm going out of state, and I have to fly, sometimes I'll bring this with me, especially when it's going somewhere and it's like in summer, you know, like we just got back from Florida. I took this because in the Florida heat, I knew I wasn't going to want to carry, I was going to want to wear light clothing, and therefore I wanted a light weapon to carry. And I also knew that if I was going to lose a weapon in the airline system, which I've heard of happening, it's never happened to me, I travel a lot, then I would rather lose this than my Glock. Okay, so those kind of add up to make me decide to carry this. Plus, if I needed to go somewhere, you know, casual, I can carry this. If I need to go somewhere dressed up, I can carry this too. So this sort of fits all of those bills. And it's a nice, like I said, it's a nice looking gun. So I would, if you're looking for something to fill that niche, right? Something a little smaller, lighter, maybe even classy, I would go with this. Now, I would say a classier option, which I will pick up one day, is a Walther. I'm going to do that. I'm going to eventually have a PPK, probably in 380, maybe the 32 version. I don't know, but I'm going to get a PPK. You know, that would be, I think, to me, that's a classier option. But for a budget-friendly, good-looking little small handgun, this fits the bill. This absolutely fits the bill. One other place that I think this is useful. Oh, one other feature that I like. I really actually like these finger grooves. They fit my fingers very well. But anyhow, so one other thing that I think is worth mentioning here. I think that this and the Bersa Thunder, which has some of these same features, is it's a good option for people who are not necessarily firearm enthusiasts and want to own a firearm for personal defense or home defense and are really concerned primarily with safe storage. All right, so one moment. All right, so the people I'm talking about is like, you know, you'll have mothers, right? Or, I mean, even going to be fathers sometimes too, but people who, they're just not gun people and they just need something to keep their family safe, right? So those people may not be gun guys, right? And that's okay. And they should still be able to have firearms to keep themselves safe. For those kinds of people, oftentimes a huge concern is going to be safe storage and keeping it out of the hands of their kids. That should be a concern for all of us, but especially for people new to firearms and people who are not gun people. That is, they oftentimes fixate on that. Okay, and I'm not saying that's bad, but they oftentimes do. So this firearm and the Bersa Thunder series in general, but this firearm offers a lot of safety layers to address those concerns. Now, those are also impediments to using the weapon in self-defense, right? Each layer of safety to stop someone from accidentally using the weapon is also a layer of safety that stops you from using the weapon. So I want to talk about those layers real quick and how that probably makes it uniquely positioned to give someone new to firearms peace of mind. Now, give them a few years, they're more familiar with weapons, they're less concerned, and then they can, honestly, they could strip off a few of those layers and still be extremely safe. So let's look at the gun and talk about those. All right, so I'm going to put the gun on safe here real quick, and let's talk about what it would take for a child to fire this weapon. Okay, first of all, they would have to get to it. So let's say it's stored in a safe. So the first defense is that it's in a safe. Okay, let's even assume that it's loaded with a round in the chamber. Okay, and as it comes from the store, right? Or actually, let's assume that it's not loaded. It's not loaded here, right? So maybe it's stored just like this in the safe. So number one, the kid has to get into it and find it in the safe. Get into the safe. That's layer number one. Layer number two, the kid has to be able to insert the magazine into the weapon. That's layer number two. Layer number three, they have to be able to rack it. Layer number four, they have to find the key and or maybe it's even in the safe, but they have to find and use the key to unlock the weapon here. All right, so where we have safe, insert magazine, rack slide, unlock gun, disengage safety, and then pull the double action trigger in order to make it fire. That's 6 separate steps that have to be taken in order to put this in a position to fire. All right, that's a lot, and those are tons of layers. And honestly, if we're talking about a young child or even possibly a young adult that hasn't been taught how to do this, a young child isn't going to be able to do it. A young adult that hasn't been taught is going to take some time to figure it out. And time buys you options, as John Correa from Active Self-Protection likes to say. I don't know of any other firearms that offer that many options. Okay, you could add another layer if you stored this separately, and maybe even if you had a round in the chamber, right? We still get that same layer of safety, because if someone got a hold of the weapon, magazine wasn't in it, they would still have to unlock it, take the safety off, and still the trigger's dead. It won't fire until that magazine's put in. So that is another layer of safety, right? That can be taken advantage of. So if you ask me, that's a lot. And I think that it could address the needs of the new gun owner population. It's not simple, but a lot of those people are more interested in safety than simplicity. Now give someone a couple of years and some time familiarizing themselves with firearms, and they may understand that not all of those layers are necessary. People adapt. But that is something that I've always thought is an appeal to these weapons, in addition to their price point, right? I mean, $250, $300 for something like this I think it's a good deal. I've never had any problems with it. I don't shoot it as much as my Glock, but I do shoot it, and I haven't had any malfunctions or issues to speak of, nothing at all. They do make them in a couple different color combinations, so this obviously is just a black one, but they make them in two-tone with a black lower and a silver-looking slide, and they make them in just all like a nickel, I think is what it is, a nickel color, which is really nice. Those are a little bit harder to find, it seems. I would have preferred, I think, to have a nickel-colored one, but I've got this, and maybe my PPK will be nickel. So tell me a little bit about your experience with smaller size pistols. This is small enough you could throw it in a pocket if you want. I don't do pocket carry. What I do usually do is I put this in a holster, and I carry it safety off with the leaning on that double action as my safety. That trigger is safer than the trigger on my Glock, right? Because the trigger on the Glock is a little harder to pull, or a little easier to pull. I know the Glock has a trigger safety, but I don't put a whole lot of stock in that, to be totally honest. So anyways, tell me what you guys think. If you have a smaller pistol, how it fits into your carry regime, what you like to carry, what your thoughts are on this gun. Let's hear from you. Appreciate you, and look forward to talking to you again on the next one.